Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It's the Earthmaster here on this Sunday, February 26, 2023. It's about 11:56 a.m. here along the West Coast in California, where we got some more rain coming in as we speak. Latest earthquake shows a 2.1 onto the Big Island of Hawaii. Notice these areas that got hit overnight, including the Kermadec Trench, New Zealand area, all showing signs of uptick. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. First, I kind of want to cover the activity ramping up in the ionosphere and the space weather department. Got a G3 forecasted storm coming up here later tonight. This is the February 27th time frame, so that's going to be UTC time. It looks like, I was just checking out the space weather data, the raw data, and it looks like one of two of the CMEs that are expected to interact with the planet later today has arrived somewhat early. We notice a density uptick right here, and also the speed approaching 600 km, which is a sign of a passage of one of the CMEs, but they are forecasting this to ramp up to the potential of a G3 class storm, which is pretty significant. KP index up around 7. Here is the current Aurora forecast, the 30-day, or not 30-day, but 30-minute forecast. Just starting to pick up a little bit. So we'll watch this later tonight. The detailed forecast here, this is a little bit downgraded. This should have been a little bit higher here for a G3 storm. But predicted, looks like could be on time, 18 to 24 UTC time, and right now we are currently in the 1956 UTC time on the 26th. So we're within this range right here, but it looks like sometime here in a few hours we're going to be approaching the G3 class storming levels. And G3 is it's somewhat of a strong storm, right? Everyone asks, well, what's going to happen in the G3 storm? Here's just a little example. Say we do get the strong G3 storm, power system voltage corrections may be required, false alarms triggered on some protection devices, some spacecraft interruptions up there in space. Also, at times, we could get intermittent satellite navigation and low-frequency radio navigation problems. And also high frequency may be intermittent. During the G3 storms, auroras have been as low as Illinois and Oregon. So we'll watch for that and see if this comes true. Again, this is from a subsequent CME. This is one of them. It was not directly Earth related or Earth directed, but it was a full halo. So in that type of setup, the brunt of it obviously is going off here towards the right side of the screen, but we're going to get a glancing blow just from the partial side of that halo from one CME, and we did have another one just a day or so ago that could interact and make it pretty much like a double whammy setup. Now, let's see here. These guys did put out a little article on it. Looks like this was put out updated. Strong G3 storming predicted within the next 24 hours, 48 hours, I should say. This would be in response to the possible combined effects, goodness, of two CMEs from Friday and Saturday sweeping past Earth. Now, this is not a direct shot. If it was, we'd obviously be looking at G3, maybe G4, who knows? But we're just going to get a little glancing blow from the two of these, and we'll see how it plays out. And folks in the middle to high latitudes should expect, depending you have clear skies, the potential for some auroras later tonight. Again, it's just coming in on the solar wind speed chart here. We're seeing that kind of ramp up a little bit, but it's still, obviously, it's still light out along the East Coast as well. Let's see here. There's a couple of those CMEs that were blasted off. There was a long duration M flare, another strong long duration M flare, and both of those were eruptive. They shot off those two CMEs. So we'll wait for this to pop up later tonight. Proton event, we were just talking about that last night. 99% chance that kicked up big time. up around the polar regions, north and south. The ionosphere being highly charged right now from charged particles from the sun. And most of the time when we see this happen, it affects the obviously the high frequency radio communications in this region. That's about the only issue that they may have. And but other than that, no solar flaring happening right. Oops, let me go back here. I went a little bit too far. Not looking at any major flaring currently. The flares, at least right now, looks pretty minimal. We did have a little C flare, C2.8 pop up, and it looks like right now there's a 99% chance of a C flare, M flare at 65% chance, X flare at 15%. And of course, the ongoing proton event right now, the charging of the ionosphere up at the polar regions, is taken. It's been like this actually for a good 24 hours or more. So we'll continue to watch that. As far as the sunspot regions go, we do have a ginormous sunspot region currently facing Earth, although it's degraded slightly over the last day or so. It was pretty complex. Now it's not so much complex here. The sunspot region that has produced the X flare and the X flare from last week, and the two long duration M flares is over here. Still looks fairly dynamic, but the further westward, goodness, woo! Maybe it's the ionosphere. It's kind of interfering with my electrical signals in the brain. Could be. Never know. It does a lot to us here on the planet. All right. So yeah, this sunspot we do need to watch here, even though it's degrading a little bit. It still harbors some potential within this spot for some flaring, and not so much down with these other ones. And what's left behind it, a couple new sunspots we'll have to watch here in the coming days. But right now, the big picture is this incoming G3 class storm that has been forecasted there from the Space Weather Prediction Center and also spaceweather.com here, showing the updated geomagnetic storm watch. Yeah, so we'll definitely watch it here and see how this plays out. There's the here's a little mention about the proton events here. The NOAA's GOES 16 satellite is detecting a surge of protons with energies greater than 10 MeV. Our planet's magnetic field is funneling these particles towards the polar regions, where a second type of radio blackout is underway, a polar cap absorption event. Airplanes flying over those regions may find that their shortwave radios won't work due to the ionizing effect of infalling protons. It looks like this could last for a couple days. Goodness. So yeah, there's a little bit more information here. There's the graph, the energetic protons being funneled up to the up and down towards the polar regions. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's move on to earthquake activity. Quite the uptick in movement here. This is just showing a minimal amount. This is our watch area from last night. It definitely got hit overnight. We were watching a swarm of earthquakes up and down the western side of the Pacific plate, kind of pointing towards an arrow. I'm still expecting that momentum and the pressure here to generate along the Java Trench or areas up around the Myanmar area. It's all been kind of pointing in this direction, and that's the general westward plate movement here around the western Pacific plate. This is kind of where all the pressure gets compacted in a way, but there's areas up around the plate boundaries that have not been hit, and we're expecting that to pop up here soon. It's just a matter of time. But we did see a little bit of adjustment back building around the Tonga Trench, the Kermadec Trench. Areas that we were expecting did pop up last night. The latest one, a 4.6, deeper movement once again into the Tonga Trench. We did have a 5.0 into the Kermadec Islands, New Zealand area. A couple earthquakes there in that region. Again, just after about 3 o'clock in the morning, so this was quiet, and this was one of our zones that we were forecasting last night to watch for some earthquakes. Also down south here, around the Christchurch area, seeing a 2.9. I find this rather odd that the USGS is reporting a 2-pointer for the international communities here. But that's kind of cool. I like that. I mean, maybe they will start reporting some of the smaller quakes for areas of interest. And Christchurch, New Zealand area, definitely a zone worth watching here. Let's see what we got for the GeoNet or the EMSC models, showing basically about the same thing that the USGS is reporting, including that 2.9. There's those fours along the Kermadec Trench, deeper movement into the Tonga Trench area. It looks as though we're starting to see a little bit of activity stretch here, some newer movement, as I mentioned, up around the Java Trench, 3.5 coming in now to the Java Trench area, close to the northern end. But looking at all of the data here, the zones that have not been hit yet, I know we've seen some uptick here around the Kermadec Islands and New Zealand. There's a couple areas that have been showing some seismic increase over the last couple days, but have not seen any large-scale movement over the past few years or so. I'm talking about megaquake potential, and more than the last few years. I can't remember the last time an 8-pointer struck the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. We've done that little research in the past. We'll do it again maybe later tonight, but not right now. I have way too much stuff on my plate. I got to utilize my time a little bit today to catch up on a couple essays that are due later tonight. But Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, got to watch this area. It has been active. We've been seeing some movement and some further deep activity here. This region right up here, the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, is a zone of potential megaquake possibility. It's one of the largest subduction zones that accumulate major slip in a short amount of time. And that's reinforced by the Pacific Plate here. This is a subduction zone level here where the two arrows are pointing, red arrows. So you got the Pacific Plate being shoved underneath the North American Plate, and that's being reinforced by the Eurasia Plate here from the northwest. So this is a major area that doesn't take a whole lot of time to build up large earthquakes, and it's been a while since we've seen any large earthquakes specifically on the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. Not the Japan Trench. Of course, 2011, we did have that 9-pointer, but I'm talking specifically within this zone right here. It's definitely primed. West Coast area. Another thing we mentioned with all the activity here along the Western Pacific and adjacent plates, things tend to minimize here along the Eastern Pacific, and that's been relatively true, with California only seeing a little bit of earthquake activity here over the last couple days. We do have some small quake activity around the Ridgecrest area, 2.8 coming in within the last hour, and a little spotty activity down along the San Jacinto fault zone with a little bit of movement. Looks like along the San Andreas fault here, just off of it, north of Desert Hot Springs. But overall, the seismic activity right now in California is below background levels. And that's due to the fact that the westward movement here is taking full effect, a teeter-totter effect, playing itself out over here around the Western Pacific. Around the Puerto Rico area, let's see when these took place here. A little bit of activity kicking up here around the Mona Passage and up around the Puerto Rico Trench, a couple 2s and 3s. No significant areas of interest currently, but our swarming region here is continuing today in the Puerto Rico area. That's just an ongoing thing, for been like that for a little while. South America region got one earthquake from yesterday, and the EMSC model just shows a handful of smaller quakes, a couple 2s down there today. Up along the Middle America, well, that's off the Middle America Trench, a 4.4 along the Cocos and the Pacific Plate boundary. That's going to be this red line here, divergent boundary out into the Pacific, showing a little bit of movement, and USGS is reporting that. Coming in about 8 o'clock this morning. A Roscoe fracture zone. All right, let's see what else we got here. We got some severe weather. We'll check this out here in just a second for Oklahoma. You guys are you're looking at some damaging weather out here today. Pretty important to be weather aware, as a lot of this is going to be happening at night. A little bit of Oklahoma or activity outside of the OKC area as far as earthquakes go. A couple 2s and some 1s. One earthquake up around Wichita, Kansas. Beautiful state of Kansas, 2.3 at 2.2 kilometers. And one earthquake this morning around the New Madrid seismic zone, a 2.3 coming into that area. The rest of the country looks pretty quiet for now. Alaska region, this is another area that's been kind of bouncing back and forth in between activity. Did have some further movement here this morning with a 5.0 along the Aleutian Trench at 45 kilometers deep. Over the past week or so, definitely been active with moderate earthquake activity stretching across this region. And with the general plate movement here, we tend to watch, with a west-northwestward plate movement, kind of like a domino effect here. Get a little bit of earthquake activity here, there, and it just kind of migrates this way. And all that pressure builds up along the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, and that's just something we definitely need to watch here. We did see a deeper movement quake earlier this morning, a 4.5, and another deep quake. Look at this one, 436 kilometers deep for a 4.1. So deeper movement taking place here, adding to the strain of the subduction zone level, similar to what we see along the Cascadia, but on a larger scale. Definitely a larger scale. So it doesn't take 300 years for earthquake activity to build up there in terms of megaquake potential. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? Middle East areas in this region look a little bit quieter today, according to the USGS. And let me bring this over here just a tad bit. See what we got. Yeah, a little bit of most of these around Turkey and the Mediterranean area look like some smaller 2s and some 3s, but overall seismic activity appears to be tapering off there over the last 24 hours. So again, couple zones here. Java Trench northward, Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. Notice no activity here around the Mariana Trench and the Izu Trench up here just off the coast of Japan. That's another prime area that could be seeing some movement with all of this pressure basically putting the squeeze on the Philippine plate here, right in the middle. 3.1, look at that. We're just back building again here. North Island, New Zealand. Let me see here. Stand by for just a second. Yeah, just got that from the EMSC. Let me go over here to the EMSC, or the GeoNet servers, and take a look here real quick at what's going on. Here's that 3.1 a minute ago. Looks like 24 kilometers deep. North Island, northwest of Gisborne, 25 kilometers. Is that another 3.1? Maybe 2 of them, it looks like. Possibly being recorded. Let's see what we got overnight here. Mostly 1s and 2s. And I know we had that 2.8 South Island there. 4.5 up along the Kermadec Trench, of course. Okay, so let me see what we got for the I don't want to say landslides. The drums here across the New Zealand area. Picking up that earthquake activity. Kind of looks like there was 2 3-pointers. This station right here around the North Island, New Zealand area. Notice 1 earthquake here. Secondary one coming in as we speak. So that's definitely showing some uptick here along this region of the we got the Kermadec Trench up north, the Hikurangi subduction zone, and of course other fault systems that run through New Zealand area here. Definitely be on guard here watching this area today. There's just been so much movement around the Pacific Plate. It's hard to say exactly where these what regions are going to get hit. But this was all quiet last night, and it looks like it's starting to fill in a little bit for this area. All right, Big Island got an earthquake up around Mauna Loa, a 2.1, 5.9 kilometers deep. No major swarm kicking off there, but we will watch. If we see this thing start swarming up again, it could be an indicator of some eruptive activity getting ready to brew up again. You never know. Could be a really interesting year. Space weather, volcanoes, earthquakes. All right, let's see, what else do we have here. I think that's about it for the coverage on the earthquake activity. The Atlantic is fairly quiet for now. Let's go ahead and check out weather activity. Now, the Storm Prediction Center, let me bring that up here real quick. Storm Prediction Center has the current day forecast here of a moderate risk. That's pretty high. There's only one other level above the moderate, and that's the high category 5. So we're in the 4 right now of seeing some damaging weather out here across a good portion of Oklahoma. And that includes some very populated regions, OKC in there, Tulsa, Norman, Lawton, and Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, all in the moderate category. Now, some of this stuff right here, derecho is in the forecast with widespread damaging winds and embedded swaths of significant severe gusts. Now, these are just straight line winds of 80 to 110 miles an hour. So this is not tornado damage, but this is straight line wind damage that could have a wide swath of some significant damage across the Oklahoma area. Not to mention some tornadoes. They're talking about EF2 to EF3 tornadoes possible here in the southwest area of Oklahoma this evening. So this is a dangerous setup as we enter into the night tonight. Things could get rather interesting. You definitely want to make sure you have your storm plan handy and make sure you got your storm shelter prepared and set up for tonight, because it may definitely be needed as we head towards this evening. Looking at the tornado potential here, there's a 10% hatched area specifically around Oklahoma City, Lawton, Edmond, Yukon, and the Altus, Oklahoma area, all in that hatched region. That's the greatest area of potential of seeing a EF2 to EF3 tornado within about 25 mile of a point. And of course that area does extend out into Kansas and even further with that 2%. So tornadoes are not going to be confined to this area. This is just where the greatest threat is to see a probability of an EF2 to EF5. Excuse me, I read that wrong. EF2 to EF5 tornadoes within a 25-mile point. So that's significant, very significant weather event. Here's the wind event. That's going to be those straight line damaging winds. And you can see Oklahoma City in there in the 45% chance. So I think it's going to be a big deal. Hail threat is up there as well. There's a hatched area, significant severe threat of 10% or greater probability of a 2-inch hail event occurring within 25 miles of a point. Lawton, Altus, El Reno, Oklahoma, Woodward, and Vernon, Texas. So this area, watch it very closely here, folks. I'm not even joking. So I want to show you guys the regions out here. I'm going to show you predictive radar and kind of give you guys an indication of what this could look like come later tonight. We're going to use I think this one, this one might work. So basically this is going to show us what the radar could look like as the storms brew in. Now each weather model is different. We can use the HRR is pretty accurate as well. Let's see what this one's forecasting. This one has a pretty good line of individual discrete supercells here that will be the greatest threat for tornadoes. So looking at later tonight, as that storm system begins to move in here to portions of Oklahoma, western Oklahoma, excuse me, there's what it could look like with the individual supercells popping up. And it's only going to last for a little while. This is going to zip on out of here to the east. And I think some of these storms are forecast to be moving around 85, 90 miles per hour. That's the storm motion. So that is just very quick. You're not going to have much time to prepare when these things pop up. So it's best to have your weather radio on and handy, watching the local news, watching local radar at your TV stations there in Oklahoma. And of course Kansas and northern Texas as well. Can't leave these guys out. The greatest threat though is going to be right up here in this little area of southwestern Oklahoma and portions of northern Texas out here. Going to see that greatest threat. And that moves on as a kind of a line event out here, squall event as it scoots towards eastern Oklahoma. Pretty big deal, folks. You know, there's a lot of strong wording mentioned in the Storm Prediction Center their forecast. So just be prepared for tonight for damaging events. Right now, let's see what we got over here. Windy map. Right now for the Oklahoma area. This is actually part of the system that brought the cold snow and blizzard weather conditions out here around Los Angeles and, of course, Northern California. It kind of took a dip like this, followed the hand, and then it's scooting off this way. Much colder air bringing in some warmer, moist air from the Gulf. Look at Houston, 80 degrees. Goodness. So there is the system starting to brew up out here, and that will interact with some of the warmer environment, that cold, unstable air venturing towards the Oklahoma area. Current weather radar. Let's see what we got here. A little bit of activity, but it's not even interacting with this warmer environment yet. But it will. Just got some light rain, it looks like, right now around the Oklahoma area. Best thing to do, folks, is, gosh darn it, be prepared. It's no joke. It's getting to be that time. And when you have a large event on a linear scale here that could just bring a wall of wind that direction, got to be prepared. All right, folks. We'll probably jump on a little bit later to see how the radar looks around the Oklahoma area and do an update once that event shows up here in western Oklahoma. And then we'll go from there. In the meantime, look for that G2, G3 possible storm coming in later tonight. Could be a dandy. Could be a flop. You never know. Last one was a flop completely, but we do have a little hint of it showing up on the live solar wind stream flowing in right now. So we'll continue to watch it and see how it plays out. Have a good day, folks. We'll catch you guys a little bit later on with the weather update and, of course, the update later tonight. Take care.